Out of all the big companies today, one company stands taller than the rest of them, and that company is Nvidia. From providing the best graphic cards on the market to now supplying the building blocks for AI systems, has helped made Nvidia become the most valuable company in the world as of me writing this. And it seems like them gaining this title came out of nowhere, but this is far from the case. Nvidia has a long history of trying to do things differently and creating great products. And it is this ability to innovate and look forward which has taken them to where they are today. And in this video, we'll take a look at how a small, humble company who wanted to manufacture computer chips became the behemoth who is currently spearheading the AI revolution. Nvidia was founded in 1993 in California by Jensen Huang and fellow engineers Chris Malachowski and Curtis Priam. All three had at the time good paying jobs, with Huang being a director at a semiconductor company called LSI Logic and Malachowski and Priam working as senior engineers at AMD and IBM respectively. As a lot of people might be able to relate, they were fed up with how things were being run at these companies they worked at and would gather together to discuss the possibility of forming a new company. Fun fact, it was actually Huang's idea to discuss this matter at a Denny's, which was the same chain where he used to work at as a teenager. Nevertheless, over some undercooked eggs mixed together with a fry cook's tears due to his pending divorce, they discussed that they wanted to create their own computer chips, specifically ones that focused on delivering realistic 3D graphics on personal computers. Chips that delivered graphic fidelity already existed in arcade machines and home consoles at the time. However, as graphics for gaming became more complicated to render with the introduction of 3D graphics during the 90s, it was clear that something needed to be done if the gaming space was to evolve. Huang, Malachowski, and Priam saw this and decided to move into this market. With all of them quitting their jobs and $40,000 in the bank, they formed their company Invidia, with the name deriving from the Latin word Invidia, which means envy, which would also fit the company's identity very well in the coming years. And as luck would have it, they would also secure $20 million in venture capital funding from different capital firms such as Sequoia Capital and Sutter Hill Ventures, as well as a few others. The money went toward the business, which grew to 100 employees and also a new office, which they absolutely needed as the current operations were being run out of Priam's house. With capital secured, manpower in place, and leadership with a plan, it was time to focus on creating Nvidia's first ever product, the NV1, a graphics accelerator chip which went on to become a huge success and cemented Nvidia as a titan in the chip space from the get-go. No, actually that was a lie. The NV1 chip was a complete and utter failure. The chip itself was not actually the problem. It was a pretty good chip at rendering 3D graphics, maybe too good, because with almost all technical problems, the real reason why the NV1 failed had more to do with Microsoft. Microsoft introduced the DirectX platform, which allowed different components to work together, including enabling games to use the various hardware components in your PC. However, the NV1 chip was not very compatible with DirectX, which rendered the initial edge the chip had to be completely useless, as all Windows computers would use DirectX. This became a costly mistake for Nvidia. However, Nvidia got a new opportunity to redeem themselves as they had managed to land a deal with Sega to supply the company with the initial graphics chips for the Sega Dreamcast, which was a huge opportunity for a new company such as Nvidia. However, it became clear to Sega that Nvidia's technology was severely lacking behind its competitors during the production of the computer chips, and after a year of working on these chips, Sega decided to cut ties with Nvidia, which was another huge blow to the company's finances. However, as luck would have it, at the same meeting where Sega's president, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this name, would announce to Huang that they had decided to go with another chip manufacturer, the Sega president acknowledged Huang for what they were trying to do at Nvidia. He believed in Nvidia's potential so much that he managed to persuade Sega's management to invest $5 million in the company, which was the only thing that kept Nvidia afloat at the time. At this point, it was 1996, and Nvidia had fumbled every single opportunity that they had gotten and was on the verge of collapsing as they were running out of money. This made Huang take the decision of cutting the staff, reducing it from 100 people to just 40, and focusing all the team's effort on their next chip, the Riva 128, aka the NV3. At this point, if this chip failed, there would be nothing left, and Nvidia would have to close its doors. In August of 1997, the River 128 was released, and at the time of release, Nvidia reportedly only had 1 month's payroll left. So this time they had no choice. The chip had to succeed. It needed to succeed. And as it would turn out, in the first 4 months of the chip's release, it ended up selling 1 million units and became the company's first ever successful product. Another fun fact is actually that up until the chip's release, as mentioned, Nvidia only had enough money for 1 month's payroll, and this pivotal moment in the company's history gave birth to its unofficial motto that echoed through the halls of the company. Nvidia. Our company is 30 days away from going out of business. And as Huang confirms, he began all his internal staff presentations with this exact quote every single time for years to come, which I actually quite like because it shows what kind of person he is. After the success of the River 128, Nvidia would go on to work on their next chip, the River TNT or NV4. This chip was especially important for Nvidia because it took everything that they had learned from the River 128 and just improved on it. The River TNT would become an even bigger success and would cement Nvidia as a market leader in graphics technology. With 2 successful products under their belt and a growing reputation inside their market, it was time to look toward the new millennium and the next big step in the company's history. With proven products and a solid name in the tech industry, Nvidia decided to go public on January of 1999. People immediately went crazy for the stock alongside others like it, as this was the early days of the dot-com bubble. However, Nvidia was one of the few companies during this era where you could actually justify the hype, because they were about to release a product that was about to change the way people saw graphics processors forever. In late 1999, Nvidia released the GeForce 256 and changed the game of GPUs forever. While GPUs had existed for some time, they did not have the graphics card design that we know today. This innovative way of approaching GPUs was invented by Nvidia and is not only used by them to this day, but also the entire graphics card industry, which is nothing short of impressive. Even though this was Nvidia's first crack at creating a graphics card this way, it outperformed every single competitor by a wide margin. The sheer power of this thing was unbelievable at the time, and it is safe to say that it sold very well. It sold so well that it impressed the right people and offered Nvidia another try at delivering their products to the console market. While its first attempts at delivering GPU chips to the Dreamcast failed spectacularly, they got the opportunity to deliver the GPU units from Microsoft's original Xbox, which released in 2001. The console at the time was praised for the impressive 3D graphics of its games, which laid the foundation for the Xbox brand, a foundation that Nvidia heavily contributed to. For the next decade, Nvidia would continue to deliver high-quality graphics cards to the gaming industry, with each new iteration being more powerful than the last. They had also begun establishing notable partnerships with different companies, such as Sony with delivering GPUs to the PS3, raising the bar for graphic standards on the 7th generation of gaming consoles, as well as partnering up with NASA to create a photorealistic simulation of Mars, and partnering up with Audi to deliver chips for a series of their cars. Things were going very well for Nvidia, right up until it didn't, because they were about to be entangled in a big scandal. In 2008, Nvidia was involved in a legal problem regarding its GPUs in certain laptops. It turned out that certain mobile chipsets had an unusually high failure rate due to bad manufacturing. However, Nvidia refused to reveal exactly which GPUs were affected, which resulted in a class action lawsuit led by Apple, Dell, IBM, and HP, who claimed that their laptop models had been affected by the faulty GPUs. The lawsuit ended in a settlement in 2010, and Nvidia was forced to reimburse and provide repairs for those customers affected by the defects. This, however, did very little to hurt Nvidia's reputation, it seems, and with the lawsuit behind them, they could begin focusing on their next big release. In 2012, Nvidia would implement what was known as the Fermi architecture in their GPUs. And for those who don't know, a computer chip architecture such as the Fermi architecture are a way of determining where the different things on the computer chip get placed to better enhance performance. While this may not matter much for the average person, for those in the industry utilizing different computer components, this mattered a lot, because there are key differences between manufacturers due to the way that they choose to structure their architecture. The Fermi architecture itself is not anything groundbreaking, and it was also later replaced by better iterations, but at the time it was significant due to not only the performance Nvidia's GPUs were beginning to get from these design decisions, but this would also mark Nvidia's step towards its new bet: AI. By 2012, deep learning was beginning to see its uses in areas such as image and speech recognition, as well as language processing, which would lay the groundwork for what AI as we know it today would become. Nvidia would also create an AI platform to better suit the needs for businesses to create their own AI tools. And even at these early stages, companies such as Amazon, Google, and Microsoft were using these tools to create their own AI programs that we know them for today. While AI today is more or less an established technology, it was not like that in 2012. This was a bet that came with risks because while you could imagine what the technology was capable of doing, nobody knew how or even when it would form into this thing that we know it as today. For Nvidia, there were no guarantees, but when looking at their history up until this point, they were very aware of that. But this didn't matter because sometimes you just need to take that risk and see what happens. During the mid-2010s, as mentioned before, Nvidia would continue to improve its microchip architecture, blowing the competition away with every single iteration and every single new card, and it seemed as if no one could stop them. But in 2016, Nvidia would do something that would begin laying the groundwork for AI and begin taking the steps to take AI from a mere concept to an actual viable technology. In 2016, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang would hand-deliver a DGX-1, a powerful supercomputer created to solve some of the most complicated problems in tech. But it was not the supercomputer itself that mattered, it was more who he delivered it to, which was a little startup company by the name of OpenAI. And for the next few years, everything was pretty calm at Nvidia. They would go on to create more efficient GPUs and release new graphics cards to their core audiences, but nothing really significant would happen this time. And they went on with business as usual, up until the beginning of the 2020s, as OpenAI would be gearing up for the release of the first public version of ChatGPT. And with this, everything changed for Nvidia. As OpenAI's ChatGPT service showed the world what AI could do and become, it opened the floodgates for companies interested in this field. And since the service was built on 10,000 of Nvidia's GPUs, this made Nvidia a very valuable company. Soon companies who wanted to build their own AI solutions rushed to Nvidia to acquire GPUs, which made Nvidia a lot of money and also made my graphics cards very expensive. It was a new reality for Nvidia, which materialized in the way that they made their GPUs, going from making them the #1 choice for gaming to now having a heavy focus on AI training. And the thing is that this overall market focus on AI did not just affect Nvidia, but every manufacturer in tech, from storage companies to RAM manufacturers. I mean, seriously, what the fuck are these prices? It turns out that during a gold rush, it truly is more profitable to just sell the shovels. However, this success did not come cheap though. As Nvidia's value rose and it was making more money, regulators began eyeing Nvidia for its growing dominance in this space. And it was not without reason. As of 2023, Nvidia claimed that 70% of all supercomputers in the world were using its chips. And later that year, Nvidia's offices were being raided due to antitrust concerns in the cloud computing industry. This happened not only in Europe but also in China, where the Chinese government were closely examining Nvidia's practices and overall position in the AI industry. But while these battles were raging on, Nvidia was still growing, and just last year it reached a new milestone, with the company being the first company to ever reach a $4 trillion market cap, a milestone driven by soaring demand for its AI chips and a central role in powering large language models and data centers worldwide. And it is no surprise that this has benefited investors as well, as more new money is being poured in as AI develops. I mean, just look at this graph. While it may have stopped the soaring for now, I do believe that it is going to keep growing as AI develops. So where is Nvidia today? Well, they're still in a good position. They've entered into a giant strategic partnership with OpenAI to provide hardware and data center capacity to further grow AI capabilities. as well as making investments in companies such as Synopsys Inc. for a whopping $2 billion to further develop its chips. However, recently questions have begun to be asked about how much AI can actually do for us and if the current investments into this tech have been overvalued in regards to what has actually been produced. And of course, there is this constant talk of an AI bubble. I mean, even the AI darling OpenAI seems to be having a rough time in this current climate. But I guess time will tell what is going to happen to the AI craze, which would also heavily impact Nvidia, no doubt. Nevertheless, it is very admirable to see a company that went from failing time and time again, unable to provide their employees with salaries for more than one more month, to now being the most valuable company in the world. It is truly fascinating, and just goes to show what you can do when you strive to become the best. Now time will tell if it stays that way. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you want to see more. This has been another tale from Wall Street, and I'll see you in the next one.